think they'd stock it up for you guys.
Kevin, all right, well, at least this works.
Yeah, that's all you got to ask.
All right, there we go. It's voice of God type thing here.
Ask for some sodas in there next time.
Kevin, how much of a concern coming out of last weekend is your outside shooting, and do you feel like the first week of the season reflects what you guys are as a team in that department?
No, I definitely think we'll get better shooting the basketball. A lot of our missed shots have come from guys that are now either didn't play that much last year, freshmen coming in, playing, or really guys just trying to figure out their role. So I don't think we are a terrific shooting team, but I don't think we're as bad as we have shown. And I think we'll get better as we can get into a rhythm and get into a much better flow offensively from a standpoint of substitution patterns, game minutes. A lot of guys out there now playing game minutes that didn't play last year, getting shots that they didn't. So I do feel we'll get better.
Go ahead and follow up on that. You said guys that are freshmen, guys that are in bigger roles. I mean, that pretty much covers just about everybody other than Dante and Jameer. Do I have it right? I mean, maybe is that a little bit of a struggle on your end, kind of pushing through that and just kind of understanding the timing of everything?
It's I hate excuses, but the schedule was not. It did not help us in the first week of the season, considering the fact that when you have so many new guys and so many guys with transfers, you'd like to have 3 or 4 home games before you play a game, kind of like what we did last year. Constructing a schedule is really probably one of the most important things you can do in college basketball. I would have been fine going and playing Davidson on a one-off or Clemson on a one-off, but to have 3 games in 6 days with no practice is just not a good thing for your team to grow and get better. So we've had 3 good days of practice. We obviously have another game on the road. And then when we get back, I'm looking at that stretch to kind of get us into a rhythm a little bit. It was just hard to get into a rhythm with so many new guys. Plus, with the injuries that we had for the first month of the season, it was a lot of my fault with guys getting shots that probably shouldn't have been out there together. We had some combinations that we hadn't practiced with. So now all of a sudden guys are out there getting shots that they probably weren't used to getting in practice because we haven't practiced it. So that's a long answer for thinking, I think we'll be a better shooting team.
Coach, and having said that, when the rough start, new players, schedule, but isn't that the juice for a coach, is finding a way to get that meshed up?
The juice?
The juice of turning it around, getting the guys playing together, knowing that second half of the season, or even in a few weeks, that it's a better unit.
Yeah, I'm not worried about this team. I know everybody else is. I kind of figured, I knew we wouldn't be playing well at the beginning of the season. I just, from a standpoint of watching practice, the inability to practice at some point in October, and just freshmen getting their game legs. Like I said, a lot of guys, Noah didn't play much last year. Jahari didn't play much last year. Jordan in a totally different role here than he was at Indiana. Guys just doing different things than they had been, so I knew it would be a little bit rocky. I'm really pleased with our defense. I thought our defense, the first 3 games were really good. So, from that standpoint, I thought we made strides on the defensive end. But offensively, we just, that's where we gave the game away. We literally gave the ball away to the other team. That's why we lost.
Mike. Hey, Coach. Obviously, traveling to Nova, you're going to see a familiar face, Hakeem Hart. Just how excited are you to catch up with him and, see him on the opposing end?
Not very. I wish I still had Hakeem. I'm happy for Hakeem. I'm happy he's playing at home. Great family. But, Hakeem's a very, very good player, so I'm not looking forward to playing Hakeem now.
Mm-hmm. And so, what was it that you would say he contributed to the team last season, and even to you specifically, obviously, in your first season?
Yeah, Hawk was, if you look at the usage he had on the team, he was the second highest usage player behind Jameer. Hawk was an extremely, he's a he's not a flashy player. He's not a guy that's going to dunk on somebody. He's not somebody that's going to. He's not a 36 and 20 guy, but he's a guy that consistently every night is a heck of a player and someone you can depend on. And that's what he was for me last year.
Coach, being someone that's coached on both sides of the Gavitt Games, when you look at the uncertain future of that event specifically and then other similar interconference events, what is that as a coach when you talk about the schedule? How important are these events to, kind of grow the sport and such?
I think they were much more important maybe 5 to 10 years ago when you played 16 conference games and you had so many non-conference games. You're talking about maybe us going to 22 conference games. That's 22 high major games, plus everybody plays a tournament, so you're talking about 25 high major games. From a standpoint of durability, if we go any more high major games, we have to make the season longer, and we have to have more days off for these kids. Most people don't talk about it that way. That's why the NBA is such a long season, because they play so many games, but they play against big physical guys every night. If you're going to play 25 high major games, your kids need more than 1 day's rest or 2 days rest. We have to expand the season by almost, in my opinion, 2 weeks. So, not that the lower levels are any more. It's just a size difference is unbelievable. So, I don't think they're nearly as important as they are. I've been on both sides. For us now, it doesn't make any sense for the Big Ten to be in the Gavitt Games as much as I like the Gavitt Games. It's just we have 18. 20 this year. We'll have 20 next year.
20 this year.
No, teams.
Oh, 18.
We'll have 18 teams. They only have 11. So from a scheduling standpoint, if you're not playing every year, and it's every other year or every 2 years, it's really hard to balance your schedule from that standpoint of not being able to know that every year you're going to be in the Gavitt Games. So if you're only going 2 out of every 3 years, your third year now, you have to balance a home and home with another team, but then all of a sudden you're throwing the Gavitt Games back on. So I think that's really why we're not going to play them. It's just the fact that 18 and 11 doesn't fit, and it makes scheduling going forward really hard.
Kevin, if you were to expand the season, do you expand it on the back end, or do you start the season earlier?
I'd like to start the season a little bit earlier. We start practice so early. I'd like to have. I really think college basketball we should have 4 exhibition games. We should be allowed 4 exhibition games, and then start the season in early October. We play mostly during the week anyway, so it doesn't affect with college football nearly as much, and it won't affect obviously NFL in this area. But I'd like to see us expand the season, have 4 exhibition games, because it's better than 4 practices on a weekend, and make the season 2 weeks longer.
Coach, I know on Tuesday you brought up that Dante has the best plus-minus on the team. Aside from maybe what the casual fan may see, what do you think he brings to the table in terms of impact?
Yeah, I think Dante, again, he's not one of those guys that, he reminds me of a Draymond Green type of guy. His stats are never great, but they're always there, and he's got the toughness. He has everybody's back. He does so many good things that people don't see. He's a guy that I know when he's on the floor that although he might make a mistake or do something, he's going to make up for it with great effort and great hustle. So I think Dante's one of those guys that no matter where he plays in the future, someone's going to be really happy that he's on the court.
Coach, I've heard you talk about it before, the turnover, and it kind of sounds like a weird term, but you talk about a good turnover and a bad turnover.
The good turnovers are the ones to the cheerleaders. The bad ones are to the other team.
How fine a line is that for a player to get that?
I think it takes a little time. It really does. UAB would have had 18 points at half. That's a pretty good half coming on a half a day's rest, playing against a pretty good a team that put up 67 against Clemson the night before. They would have had 18 and a half if we hadn't given them. We threw it underneath out of bounds. Number 4 guy that dunked it. He tipped. He got a steal, live ball, went and got a layup, and then we turned it over the next play. 3 straight turnovers and went from up 14 to only up 6. And I think I think guys realize that if you're going to make a turnover, you got to make a turnover. Those weren't aggressive turnovers; they were all passive turnovers in my mind. And instead of going in at halftime, you also take away. Kids love stats. You take away 3 chances for shots, 3 chances for assists, 3 chances for an offensive rebound. It affects everybody. It just doesn't affect the score. It affects your teammates too. So instead of going up 34-18 and feeling really good about yourself, you go in the halftime 30-24 and you're like, we just played a good half and we're only up 6. And that was a little bit of our issue last year at times. And early on this year, the same thing happened at Mountain, the same thing happened at Davidson. We just, we're not good enough. I don't think any team's good enough to be able to just hand the ball to the other team and just give them layups. Our defense has been really good. We've made teams work. Our three-point, Davidson hit some shots late in the game that we lost guys, but I was okay with that if we hadn't given up. But the turnovers are a major issue. And again, 2 of them were my fault because I had a lineup in there that hadn't practiced together, and they pretty much ran into each other. So I have to take a lot of that blame because I had guys out there that weren't comfortable in what they were supposed to be doing.
You've coached a lot against Villanova. Are there nuances that are different with the new coach, or is it?
No,
pretty much-
Kyle's doing a good job. I mean, they seem to be taking a little bit more 3-pointers than Jay's team did, but not much. I think it's 4 a game more they're taking. They're still jump stopping, pivoting, still running the same offense defensively. They do the same thing. They switch a lot. They're aggressive. They rebound the ball at a high level. I think Kyle's done a really good job of transitioning from what Jay did to keeping that consistent, considering the fact that he's got a senior-laden team that kind of knows what they're doing. So I think Kyle's done a heck of a job.
Anything else, Coach?
Awesome. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.